We all know Elon Musk.
Right.
I mean, the Tesla, SpaceX, even Twitter guy. But did you know there's like a totally different side to him?
Yeah, this is a side we just don't get to see very often.
Yeah, like a much more human side.
Hmm.
And today we're going on a deep dive into a story that shows this. You gave me a bunch of articles, firsthand accounts, even your own notes about this thing.
Right, right.
We are going to get into it all, really unpack it and see what we could take away from this story.
It really is fascinating. We get this peek into Elon Musk as a human, which we just don't usually see.
Absolutely. And it all begins with something totally normal.
Yeah.
His daily commute, in your research, it talks about how even with all his wealth, he drives himself to work each day.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like he needed that sense of normalcy, a connection to like the everyday world. And it's while driving, he sees this little girl waving to him from her window.
Right.
And this just becomes this thing they do,
A part of his routine.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy to think about. That such a small thing can have such a big impact on someone's day.
Yeah.
This guy, Elon Musk, running these huge companies, pushing the boundaries of tech. And this little girl's wave, it's like a little moment of joy for him.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. It becomes a ritual,
Right.
like this anchor in his otherwise really hectic schedule.
It really grounds him, This little girl, she has no idea, right?
Oh, not at all.
That she's like grounding Elon Musk. So what happens when that routine gets broken?
Oh, yeah.
In your notes, you mentioned like newspapers piling up, the curtains are drawn. You get this feeling that something's off.
And that's where it gets really interesting. We see Elon, this guy who is so focused, getting totally distracted by this.
Yeah.
The girl's missing, the wave isn't there.
It really throws him off.
Yeah.
Like a puzzle piece is missing. He can't ignore it.
No, he can't. And what's so remarkable is how he reacts to this.
Right.
He doesn't just brush it off like it's nothing. He lets himself get, pulled in by it. He goes back to the house.
I mean, can you imagine? People are probably like, Elon Musk is skipping some big meeting for a missing kid he doesn't even know.
I know. It really shows you how much he cared.
Absolutely. And that concern, it just grows when he talks to a neighbor.
Yeah, an elderly neighbor.
Yeah.
Who says this is really unusual, this girl disappearing.
It's like this confirmation for him that his gut feeling was right. And it's this neighbor who tells him to try the back door. Says it's usually unlocked. Small town life, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But that little detail, that unlocked door, it becomes this huge turning point in the story.
It really is symbolic, like this gateway into a world that is completely different from Elon's.
And what does he find when he goes inside?
A note.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
2 words on it, right?
Help us. Chillin'.
It's the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
That makes it so powerful. This isn't a family on vacation. This is a cry for help. And when he reads more, the situation gets even worse. The note explains that the girl and her mom are trapped. Someone's watching them. There's this urgency. You highlighted this in your research, how this situation is pushing Elon into uncharted territory.
Totally. We see him dealing with something that you can't solve with some algorithm or a rocket,
It's like a raw human crisis.
Yeah.
It demands a completely different solution.
It really does.
So he keeps searching, looking for anything that will tell him what's going on. And then from the basement, he hears this faint tapping.
Can you imagine being down there in the dark and hearing that metal on glass sound? It's straight out of a movie.
Totally. And there they are, the mother and daughter, huddled in this tiny locked space. Their faces are just full of fear. What a contrast, right?
Yeah.
The guy who wants to live on Mars is now facing a very real, very earthly problem.
Yeah. And the mother's first reaction, she's terrified, not just of whoever's got them trapped, but also of Elon. You can see how much trauma they've been through.
Right. But the little girl, she recognizes him. The man from the car, she says. The one who brought a little bit of joy to her scary world.
It's like their little connection, that wave. It's a beacon of hope now.
It just shows you, right, how powerful even the smallest interaction can be. That wave, that recognition, it becomes a lifeline. And the mother finally tells them the truth. They're being held by loan sharks. These guys have threatened to kill them. It's a harsh reality check. It shows what some families have to go through, and the desperation when it seems like there's no escape.
It really brings the human element to the forefront of the story. Reminds us that even in this world of all this technology, there are real people facing these very real problems. And sometimes those problems go unnoticed, unless someone stops and really looks.
And that's exactly what Elon does. He doesn't even hesitate. Calls his security team. These guys are trained to handle some serious stuff.
Yeah.
But this isn't about some business deal or protecting some idea. This is about saving a family.
It's crazy to see how he uses his resources in this situation. He's not just calling the police.
Right.
He's putting together this whole extraction, making sure this family is safe, with a level of expertise most people can only dream of.
Picture it. A totally unmarked SUV, this team of security experts,
Huh.
and they slip out of that house like ghosts. It's just like a scene from a movie.
And that's where his unique position comes in. He can do things that we couldn't even imagine. He makes sure they're safe, offers them protection that regular people just couldn't give.
It's almost surreal. We see this world of private security, safe houses, lawyers, and it's so different from the Elon Musk we think we know.
Mm-hmm.
But it also shows how he can adapt, how he uses what he has to deal with situations that are totally outside of his world.
And it doesn't end there. He gets them out of immediate danger, but he doesn't just leave them to fend for themselves.
He goes above and beyond, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your research shows how he gets them an apartment, gets his lawyers to deal with those loan sharks, and he even helps the mom find a new job.
Mhm.
He's taking care of everything for them, making sure they're safe.
You can really see how much of an impact he's having. He's not just saving them, he's setting them up for a better life. It's his commitment. He wants to make a real difference in their lives. This isn't just some quick act of, heroism.
No, not at all.
Mm.
It's interesting how he uses all his money, all his resources to help them get back on their feet. Makes you think, doesn't it? About how we can all help people around us who might be struggling. Maybe not on such a grand scale.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good reminder. Sometimes it's not about those huge gestures,
Mm-hmm.
but just being there for people consistently, just that steady support.
Right. And for the little girl, he goes even further. Sets up a scholarship fund, right?
Yeah.
To make sure she can be a scientist, like she's always dreamed of. Your notes mention that moment when he tells her, you can be anything you want. Just her face lighting up.
It's a great story. He doesn't just give money, he invests in her potential. He sees that spark in her and he wants to help it grow. That's what true mentorship is.
And by doing that, he's showing what he thinks about education, how it can change people's lives. Even someone like him, at the top of his game in the business world, he still sees learning and knowledge as something super valuable.
Yeah, he really does. And it's important to note that he doesn't just give her the scholarship and disappear.
Right.
He stays in touch with them, visits, makes sure they're doing okay in their new lives. He becomes like this stable force in their lives, after everything was turned upside down.
So total role reversal almost, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say? Elon Musk, the tech giant, the billionaire. He's like their guardian angel, not just someone who rescued them, but someone who's guiding them, showing them that there's hope, even after going through something so awful.
It reminds you that we can connect with other people no matter our social status or how much money we have. You have this guy at the top, successful, rich, influential, and he finds real happiness in helping a family that's struggling. It makes you question what it means to be powerful and make a difference, doesn't it?
It really does. This brings us to another interesting point. How this whole thing changed Elon. It's like he saw this part of humanity that he hadn't really understood before. He starts to see technology in a different way, not just as something to innovate, but something that can do good for society.
You're right. He starts pushing his companies to think more about people when designing their products. Like in Tesla cars, he starts putting more emphasis on features that keep drivers safe.
Yeah.
And he increases funding for research into the ethics of AI. It shows he's shifting from just being focused on new ideas to thinking about how technology can be used responsibly.
It's a big shift. We see him encouraging his teams to think beyond just the tech side of things, but also think about the human impact, how their inventions can not just solve problems, but make the world a better place. Like he's realizing that technology without some morals can be dangerous.
A subtle shift, but an important one. And it's not just words. He actually does something about it. He starts a foundation, specifically to help families in crisis.
Like the family he helped.
Exactly, inspired by them.
It's pretty amazing how a personal experience like that can change the way someone sees the world and then pushes them to take action. It shows that even super successful people can be moved by other people's problems and then use their position to make a positive difference.
Yeah.
And speaking of making a difference, your research mentions how the little girl, years later, actually becomes a scientist. And she says it's all because of Elon's support.
That's awesome. Like everything has come full circle. His compassion not only saved her life, but it gave her this passion that led her to make her own mark on the world.
Really shows you the power of mentorship and how kindness can spread. When you invest in someone's potential, amazing things can happen. And that can then inspire others to do the same. And to bring it all back to Elon, the story ends with him still looking at that window during his commute, even years later.
It's like this unspoken reminder of the family he helped, the little girl he had an impact on, and how powerful that connection was.
Makes you think, about the small but important ways we can affect the people around us.
For sure. Makes you wonder what little acts of kindness have touched our lives.
And how can we, maybe in our own small ways, pass it on, do something good for someone else?
Yeah, it is something to think about, you know? It's easy to just get caught up in our own lives. But this story reminds us to look around a bit, see what other people are going through.
We always think of Elon Musk as this, I don't know, almost superhuman kind of guy, ambitious, focused on the future.
Yeah.
But this story shows a different side, a side that's all about caring for others.
It's really powerful. Even the most driven people, they're still capable of real kindness. And, it doesn't matter what your social status is or how much money you have, we can all connect with each other.
Right, right. It's like this experience opened something up inside him. He didn't just help the family, he was changed by it.
Yeah.
His whole view of technology changed, how important it is to connect with people, and how he can use his position to do good in the world.
It's such a great example of how the things that happen to us can change our values
Yeah.
and make us want to act. It goes way beyond just giving money. It's about really understanding what people are going through and wanting to actually help them.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What little acts of kindness have we seen in our own lives that
Yeah.
really stuck with us?
Yeah.
And how can we do the same for others?
It could be something small, like just listening to a friend who's having a hard time, volunteering somewhere, or just, being more aware of the people around us.
Right, right. Sometimes the biggest changes don't come from these big gestures, but from just paying attention, being kind, realizing that we're all connected, and that the things we do, even if they seem small, can make a difference that goes way beyond just us.
That's exactly what this story is about. It's about how powerful human connection is, how kindness can change things, and how we all have the power to make things better for other people. It's a story that stays with you, makes you look at the world differently, makes you think about what you can do to make it a better place.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.